Hi everybody, welcome back to the studio. Hope you're all doing well. I have got a new painting in today. This is going to be firstly a Patreon exclusive video, and then we'll release it onto YouTube down the line a little bit. This is an interesting one. It's a Manchester artist, kind of long forgotten. His name is Henry Liversege, and he grew up, or he lived in Ancoats, which is where the mill is based. So lots of local history to delve into with this one. Let me show you the portrait. Right, so here's the portrait. It's of a lady called Mrs Calvert. It's got a very dirty kind of discoloured varnish on there. This is where someone has had a go at cleaning it in the past. It's got lots of crackler, it's got damage on there. We've got parts of the paint here that the surface is beginning to lift a little bit. It's quite extensive on that left hand side, and a little bit of paint loss there. So that's where, you know, it's probably been hung over a fire at some point, it's dried out, the surfaces begin to crack. But it is very discoloured and very dirty, probably a lot dirtier than it shows up actually on here. This is the label on the back, so we've got our Henry Liversege and portrait of Mrs Calvert, 1825. So, and then we've got this rough Hessian, this is a dummy liner, the painting has been relined, and then they've put this rough Hessian lining fabric on there just to kind of disguise the fact. But then we've got all this brown tape. Now this painting is just in for a clean, so unfortunately we won't be addressing any of those surface issues or the structure of the painting. We're just tasked with cleaning, and this is me just doing some tests with different solutions now. So I know that it will clean because I can see these past cleans that someone else has performed. So I'll just be trying the same solution again now on the whites of her shawl. I don't seem to be making much headway there. Yeah, not much happening there. And then again here you can see I've increased the strength of the solution. Now we're actually biting through there a little bit and getting down to some of those flesh tones. So it's probably a nicotine smoke layer on there and discoloured varnish. But the surface is quite grimy and quite dirty, so I don't know where it's been stored. Again, trying another solution here to see what will lift, but nothing seems to be moving. Yeah, so nothing happening there really. And again, a different section of the painting with a slightly stronger solution, and we can see that that's actually biting through there. So sometimes these paintings are covered in almost like, I don't know, like the gas lamp seems to have had some kind of effect on some of these. There's sometimes what appears to be like a layer of grease, or I don't know if it's like wax residue from candles or if it's the smoke, but sometimes it can be really quite stubborn. But here, another solution now, and that is really getting through there now, getting onto that. You can see those flesh tones coming through. So I'm increasing my solution, I'm finding what works, and I'm applying that to different parts of the painting. So all these start to form a picture now of what we can do and the level of clean. So you can see my various tests there. But there are some really patchy areas. That forearm's really patchy there, and I'm not quite sure if that's dirt or overpaint. We've got some objects there that are kind of lost a little bit in the painting. And again, we're not going to be tackling these. I will be filling these areas in and securing anything that's loose, but I won't necessarily be, we're not going to be looking at lining this painting. It is pretty stable. Like I say, there's just a few bits. So this is the bottom edge here. You can see where it has been lined. It could well have been lined in the last maybe 50 years. It doesn't look too discoloured, the fabric underneath. And then here's that label again that has been added, collection of home down Hambledon. So that's something for me to look into. And we've got our auctioneer's markings there as well. An odd selection of stretcher keys, But this Hessian weave is just sackcloth. It's just sackcloth that they've added as a dummy liner to try and hide the fact that it's been relined. And there you can see elements of a wax resin reline. So this could have well been relined in the 70s or 80s, maybe a little bit earlier. Okay, so here's Mr. Henry Liverseege. This is a self-portrait that I've found. And he was born in Shepley Street. Now, this is an old map of Manchester from the 1800s. And Shepley Street is just on the right-hand side there, quite close to Piccadilly. Now, I'm not sure if this street still exists, so I had to do a bit of digging around and found out roughly where it is. This is the site of Henry Liverseege's birth. This is where he was born. A bit different now to what it would have been like. As you can see, no 2 up, 2 downs, no back-to-back houses, but this is where he would have spent the early part of his life. As you can see, it's a bit of a grim day. I don't think this is what it would have looked like in Henry's day. It took me an hour last night trying to locate where that street was, and using old maps and then overlaying them on top of other maps, and then I get there, it's raining and there's absolutely no shot to be had. One thing that is interesting about Henry Liverseege is that even though his portraits weren't great, he branched out into doing his allegory paintings and genre paintings, and a lot of portrait artists at the time who had patronage, like Thomas Lawrence, were kind of trapped in the format and they weren't able to explore the different kinds of scenes that Henry could. So in a way he kind of broke away from that patronage scheme, really, and I think that's why they liked him. I think they admired him for that, whereas they had to get all their drama and all their suspense and passion just in a static portrait pose. The Manchester we live in now is very different to what it would have been like then. This whole area would have been bustling with canal barges and horses and coal and dust and smoke, and look at it now, it's like sparkling. So poor Henry, he's been all the way down to London, tried to make it there, he's come back to Manchester, he's getting a little bit of success, and then unfortunately he falls ill and he knows his time is up. At 32, only 32 years old, really young age, and many feel like he was just finding his stride. He could have been an important British painter, especially an important Manchester painter. He just didn't really get the opportunity to excel at that. The other thing that's quite sad is that he applied to the Royal Academy and didn't actually get in. And I think it was down to a technicality. He actually didn't have the right paperwork, or he didn't have the right family connections. So I don't think he was too bothered about that, because he'd made his friends. He was hanging around with Lawrence and the others. So he could learn what he needed to learn from those artists themselves. But yeah, another example of the Royal Academy getting it wrong and not exactly, I don't know. It's more of a secret society, I think, these days, an actual school of artists. It seems very closed doors. It's only a 10-minute walk to Shepley Street from the studio. And the studio is a cotton mill. Mrs Calvert is taking wool, making it into thread. They were probably cotton mill owners themselves. Liverseege's uncle owned a cotton mill. The whole area is built on cotton, Cottonopolis as they call it. But yeah, it's quite nice to think that, I don't know, it all ties together. But look at the portraits of an old lady making thread on a spinning wheel. It's not very glamorous, is it? Not like the Regency Gent or those high society portraits. So it's no wonder artists from the north struggle to make headway and impress the RA, shall we say. Right, we're back in the studio now in the comparative warmth as opposed to outside, and I'm just going to start cleaning this bonnet now. So this solution, after multiple tests that you saw, is the one that is going to remove the dirt layer and the and the discoloured varnish that's on there as well. So you'll be able to see me now as I start cleaning away the layers of dirt on this bonnet. So again, always starting with the strongest pigment colours, which is the whites, and there's bits of blue in there as well. These are the strongest tones, and if there is anything wrong with your solution, you'd be able to tell quite quickly here, and then adjust it. I would never start cleaning straight away on an eye or the face or any other kind of where the softer tones are, just in case something is wrong with that solution. But you can see here now straight away that we're making good progress on that bonnet. So the story of Henry's, I think it's kind of tragic or a little bit sad, really. When he was born, he was a weakly child, and he had a bit of a spinal deformity. He must have had asthma or something. He was a little bit weak, and his father, who was a carpenter, actually disowned him, and he was brought up by his uncle and aunt on his mother's side, who were mill owners. They were a little bit more financially comfortable, shall we say, and they encouraged him and allowed him to pursue a career in the arts. And he, with no real formal training, he took up portrait paintings for commission, and then he was also painting pub signs as well in and around Manchester for extra money. But he kind of got a little bit disillusioned with portraits, and he went to London, and he tried to apply to the RA, which I touched on briefly before, but didn't get in, maybe because he didn't have the right connections. But while there, he did meet with Sir Thomas Lawrence, who encouraged him in his paintings. And when he came back to Manchester, he focused more on genre paintings, scenes from Shakespeare or allegory paintings. And one of his most famous paintings was called The Ticket. And this is one that he did get accepted into the RA. And there's about 4 or 5 different versions of this kicking about, because it must have been one of his most popular works. So either he reproduced it or he had it reproduced. I think he probably reproduced it and then tried to make some more sales from it. But this portrait, Mrs Calvert, is the mother of one of his friends. And now there was, I think it's a Michael Calvert, was a landscape painter based in Manchester. And he was a good friend to Henry, and I imagine this is how this commission came about. So we cannot say for sure who commissioned the portrait, but it was clearly in Michael's possession in 1857 and still in 1868 when it was exhibited at the National Exhibition in Leeds, and it presumably remained in his possession until his death in 1875. And then after that, it's a little bit incomplete where this portrait goes. A label on the frame shows the name Crisp and Company, Holloway, a furnishing and general store at 67 to 83 Seven Sisters Road. I think that must be Leeds as well, or unless that is Manchester. And then it was nextly noted in the collection of a late Mr. W.R. Monroe Higgs, who had a very expansive military career in the Indian Army and Royal Air Force. And he died in 1986, so the painting must have passed through their hands, and then this is when it came into my client's possession quite recently. So you can see now as I'm cleaning through that the skin tones are coming through. I've got a sparkle in her eye, the bonnet's a lot cleaner. It is cleaning nicely, this painting, and there's a real quality to the painting. The way he's applied the paint, and there's a softness to his brush strokes, the way he's blended the pigments, and the eyes. I think there's a bit of a sparkle in her eyes. There's a kindness there, and the way the paint's been applied, it's almost like he's got a filter on there, like a blurred filter that just kind of, I don't know, it's just nicely done. Sensitive, I suppose. Sensitive is the word. She's not the most attractive lady with that nose. It's a bit of a hook nose, but even so, if you ignore that and look at the eyes and the skin tones, there's a real quality to it. So as the cleaning solution dries, you sometimes get a bit of an idea of the different levels that are going on. So you can see on the chin here, I've got a very light tone on the chin, and I've got kind of patchy yellowed areas. So even though I've done like a first stage clean, that may be just more the dirt and grime and nicotine that's on there. And now as I get down to the next level, you can see that the tones are coming a lot cooler tones on there rather than the warmth there of a cheek. So at this stage, what I'll probably do is just kind of have a little bit of a check of that surface and make sure that we are just removing varnish off there and we're not removing any glazes. So this is my loom, my magnifying loom, and this will just allow me to view the paint surface and see exactly what's going on and make sure that we are just removing varnish. So under magnification now you can see that we've got that yellowed varnish that's sat on top in patches almost within the crackler, and then you've got the paint layer underneath. So anything that's yellowed on there I know is the varnish, and the lighter tones underneath are the paint. So I can continue with my cleaning solution confident that it's just varnish that's removing. There's no glazes that are lifting, and we are actually getting down now to the original paint layer. So she's going to be quite considerably brighter once this has been removed. His first endeavour was to paint portraits against commissions, typically receiving 5 guineas for each one. So in 1820, 5 guineas was worth in today's money around £287, or I don't know, what's that, $400 maybe? So he could have bought a cow, not much else. And that was about the equivalent of 33 days' work for a skilled tradesman. He also painted pub signs with variable results. A sign for the Ostrich Inn in Caroline Street off Canal Street was described by a critic simply as bad, but his sign for the Saracen's Head in Rochdale Road was described by the same critic as well done. Right guys, I think we will stop there for today. We've made some progress on the cleaning of her bonnet and her face now. I'm going to carry on with that next time. I'm going to do a little bit more research into Henry and see if we can unearth a little bit more about his life. It's a nice day out there today. It's cold but bright. Look at that. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all soon. Okay, cheers guys.